Hey YouTube. I know it's a function of getting older, but whenever somebody starts off a conversation with, "Hey, do you remember so and so?" That sense of dread kind of washes over me because rarely is the next line out of their mouths, "Well, yeah, I saw him the other day and he looks great." It's usually bad news, and I received that piece of bad news the other day. A guy that we used to work with, Jimmy, had passed away, and what struck me as sad about it was that he basically died alone. Without any friends or family around. When he lost his job, he went down to Florida, and his only contacts were his coworkers from 3 or 4 years before. And so he basically was completely isolated down in Florida. And part of the problem was he was one of the most unhappy, depressed people I've ever met in my life. And the problem with being depressed is it's a very difficult thing to come out of. And a lot of the symptoms get exacerbated because you have a tendency to withdraw or isolate yourself. And of course, that just simply makes you more depressed. So it's a tough cycle to break. And I don't think that Jimmy did. And it's funny because talking to him, he always said, I just want to go down to Florida and I want to drop a line in the water. I want to sit on a pier and I just want to drop a line into the water and do a little fishing. That's all I want to do. And it seemed like a pretty simple enough want. There's a great little pier down in Venice, Florida, right off Sharky's. There's this little restaurant called Sharky's right in Venice, and there's a great pier that goes out about 50 yards. Actually, whenever we go down there, I like to go there. But the way that he dealt with his depression was really dark humor. And, I was always okay with it. I didn't take it personally. He was like a living, breathing soca bloke, from the fair, the guy that hurls out insults nonstop. I mean, that's what he did. He literally, all day long, would just hurl out insults. And he was funny. He'd give you a good belly laugh a day at least. But you can't behave like that in the workforce, and predictably, the inevitable happened, and he got fired. So he went down to Florida, and he died alone. And it was a real reminder to me how important it is to work on your relationships, to build the relationships in your life with friends and family. I read the obituaries in the morning. It's kind of morbid, I know, but you interact with 1,000 people in your life, and you just want to keep up and see if something happened. And as you get older, more and more of the times, people that you grew to know at some point in your life pass away. And there's one common thread in all those obituaries: surrounded by family and friends. I have yet to read the obituary that says surrounded by Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. I have yet to read the obituary surrounded by the cast of Duck Dynasty and the Kardashians. I have yet to read the obituary that says surrounded by his iPad, iPhone, and big screen TV. It's always surrounded by family and friends. At the end of the day, the relationships that you build are the most important thing. Think back to when you were a kid, when life was fairly carefree. Even if you had a rough childhood, it still there was a care. Once you get to be an adult and you have the weight of the world on your shoulders and providing and everything else, you really realize how carefree it is being a kid and how strong those friendships are. And whenever I think about those memories, it's always me with my friends or me with my parents or me and my sisters. I rarely go back and think about the times I just sat on the bed and listened to Led Zeppelin. I know I did, but that's not what I think about. I never think about just sitting there listening to Pink Floyd with my headphones on and my, huge stereo. That's not what I think about. It always made me sad last year when my son played football, and there was this whole row of moms. And I get that football isn't the most exciting thing, youth football. But it's your kids out there doing it. And they were all sitting there, all of them, every single one of them was sitting there engrossed in whatever was on their smartphone. That's all they did to pass the time. They didn't watch their kid. And those kids are beaming and they're so proud of themselves at anything they accomplish on the field. Yeah, you have a couple of kids that are the stars, right? That they're always getting the touchdowns or doing something great. But then you have the secondary kids, which makes up most of the kids, that if they do one thing in a game, they just can't wait to tell their parents about it. And their parents missed it because something else was more important going on the smartphone. As much as you can call like a smartphone progress, I think in many ways it also sets us back. But that's a future video. I got a really close friend who I've really been a bad friend to. I've just been busy the last year or so, and I haven't had a lot of time to go out and do a lot of things, and I've chosen not to spend the money on this stuff. And he invites me to do a lot of things. And yesterday, I finally I said, you know what? It's really more important to be a good friend here than to save a few bucks. So we went to a wine tasting together. He has to do this for his job. He owns a store, so he has to do it for the store. And honestly, this is not my cup of tea at all. I mean, the level of pretentiousness at these things is off the charts, to be honest with you. And listening to rich people complain about their problems is a little bit infuriating, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't want to hear about how high taxes are on your lake house. I don't want to hear about how much it costs to fill up your boat on the lake, with gas. Those aren't problems I need to hear about, to be honest with you. But that's what you hear about. That's what they talk about. And I shake my head. I'm like, really? This is what Bernanke was trying to protect? The wealth of these guys? But whatever. We ended up having a good time. And, I think I actually enjoyed more just the car ride up and the car ride back, to be honest with you. But, keep those bonds going. Keep those friendships. Keep those relationships going. They take work. It takes a lot of work to maintain a good friendship. But be a good friend. Make sure you live to some kind of a code where you can be the guy that they depend on. And put some work into it. And you'll be surprised at how things kind of fall into place when all of the relationships in your life are working for you. And honestly, it really starts with you. You got to be the person that starts it. You got to be the foundation. And that's something that's really important to me. Whenever my wife or one of my kids asks if we can go do something, I do ask if I can afford it, but the answer I usually give myself is, can I afford not to do it? And the answer is typically no. I mean, this is the stuff that builds memories. And really, that's to me was what life really is all about, is your relationships and the memories. And remember, you're surrounded by friends and family, not just in death, but in life too. So make sure you cultivate those relationships. All right, Jimmy, that was for you, buddy. Rest in peace.